I'm Greg Thomas from Genesis, and welcome to Level Up CX Tech, where we delve into the most pressing issues, opportunities, and challenges in customer experience right now, and how you can use CX technologies to see real business value.
And I'm Michael Logan, and today on our episode, we're going to be joined by Darin Graves with Western Governors, and he's going to talk to us about their transformation CX.
Hi, guys.
Welcome, Darin.
Glad to be here. My name is Darin Graves. I'm the Senior Manager over the Service Desk at Western Governors University. I've been with the company about 9 years, started as a student before working at Western Governors University, and have been very involved in our Genesis usage since the beginning, about 2019.
Yeah. Thank you, Darin. So glad you're here. So why don't you kind of just carry that a little bit further? Like, tell us a little bit about WGU, what the school is there for, how you guys operate, and then a little bit about your team and the work that you do.
Absolutely. Western Governors University was started 27 years ago by the governors from the Western United States. They saw online learning as an opportunity. Mike Leavitt, the governor of Utah at the time, saw a huge opportunity to harness the internet to allow university to provide education to people in very remote areas. They ran with that, and we've been at the forefront of online education ever since. We are an accredited university. We pride ourselves on being a very economical resource. We have very limited degrees. Business education, nursing, and technology are the areas that we focus in. My role at Western Governors University is to support the staff and students with any technological issues that they may encounter. So we're a regular service desk with the two different customers that we have.
So when you think about that infrastructure that you support and that's there to support the students and the staff, like, what did the infrastructure universe sort of look like, if you will, and what were the challenges you were facing when you thought about moving forward with a CX transformation project, essentially?
Absolutely. We went through a period much like other companies where we saw cloud as a huge opportunity. Most of our applications were running on servers in back rooms in various areas, various locations. We had a push to move anything that we could to a cloud-based solution, since the majority of our employees are remote. We found that our current communications application, which was INN, had a lot of issues that we wanted to resolve. About that time, as we were looking at different cloud solutions, Genesis purchased INN. We looked at a few different competitors, but ultimately saw Genesis as being the most advanced and included the things that we were most interested in. And we made that move in 2019. Took us about 3 months of planning, preparation, and then implementation. My team was the first. We piloted it and took our learnings and then spread out throughout the rest of the teams and moved them through. So my team was very involved in the implementation, training, making sure that all the technology was working, that everything was connected and that.
So with that move to cloud, what are some of the initial differences you saw? What are some of the things you saw that moving from a legacy solution to a cloud solution, what were some of those immediate benefits you realized and some of the things you didn't expect even in those moments?
Yeah. So one of the main things we were looking for was reliability. The issue that we had before is that we would find that we would have a issue with a server on the West Coast. We'd have to bounce back to the server on the East Coast and flip back and forth, and it would cause disruption in our service. There were that was a very common issue we would encounter a couple times a month. For instance, every single call that was happening at that time would end, and we'd have to call customers back. So that was pretty big disruption. So we were looking for the reliability mainly. But as we got in and started to find out some of the other features that Genesis offered, some of the um, areas that we could explore, we were very excited. Things that we discovered: speech and text analytics, the workforce management features, WIM, and then more recently the evaluations and some of those things. One of the other big areas we wanted was to expand our input channels, the communication channels that students and staff could use to get a hold of us. We were a phone and email based service desk before. We're now phone, email, web chat, web messaging, SMS, and we are looking at a social media integration as well.
So to maybe pick up a little bit from there, like that's a lot, right? That's a lot of potential newness, a lot of potential improvements. And I think one of the things that organizations can struggle with is when they move from on-prem to cloud is this buffet of functionality that's available, but also the idea that, if you will, the buffet is continually being refreshed and expanded, right? There's new functionality, there's new things that you can take on. And that can be a challenge for organizations to sort of adopt almost the operational cadence and the sort of organizational muscle to know how to do that. Like, we got to get up and take our plate and go back to the buffet and see what's available and so on and so forth. How have you at WGU like thought about that shift and sort of operationalize the idea of, yeah, there's continuous innovation and improvements, and we need to be part of that kind of ongoing process?
Yeah, I'm a very I enjoy change, and moving from in into Genesis, it not only provided this huge buffet of offerings. Suddenly now I have Thai food and Chinese and all of these Korean, where I've been eating hamburgers all day. It wasn't just that, but it was the accessibility of these applications and these features. In many different applications, there's advanced features that need to be enabled and access needs to be provided, and that's normal. But the administration of those things is on a level that, so for instance, my manager of training and quality can go in and edit the forms and the rubrics that their team is using. In a previous application, it would require a change request that would go to a development team that would be prioritized in a sprint, and it might be 3 months later, and if a mistake was made, then it was another round, or if we messed up and didn't request the exact thing that we needed, it wouldn't be developed that way. So the granular control that we find we have within Genesis at the level that we have, it's very exciting. We don't just have this new shiny car, but we have the ability to work on the car and really tweak and move things the way we need them to. So we were very excited, not just with the amount of newness that came, but the amount of control that was in our hands and the ease and speed at which we could make changes and do things. Uh, we had various teams that needed a new queue in the past, and that work was a lot of research, testing, building out, and then implementation. And it took a long time. It was very tedious. With Genesis, it's very quick. We've got to the point where we've spun up an emergency queue for an emergency project in the matter of hours. Had people assigned, skills assigned, and we're up and running just almost immediately. It's just the immediacy and the speed at which we can apply some of these new features. It's very, very fun in my mind and my world. My team's gone crazy. It's like Christmas every time the release notes are released every week. We dive into it and start discussing, what does this mean for our application, or how can we harness this new feature? So we enjoy the continued renewal of features and things that are being offered from Genesis. And looking back, that absolutely was a factor in deciding to move with Genesis. We saw not only were they already at the forefront of a cloud-based solution, but the rate at which they were evolving and
Mm.
growing and developing really was enticing to us.
Yeah. So when you think about there's a cadence of ongoing innovation. It shows up in the release notes every week, and you say, "Oh, what's available to us?" You may also, maybe you don't, but you may also have a list of things that you want to implement, business requirements and the like. How do you kind of marry those two, lists of possible improvements to make sure you're kind of both delivering what your internal users need, but then also staying kind of agile to what might be coming that you hadn't necessarily kind of considered?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's something that we've talked about a lot. We have a vision of what we would like um, our quality, our training, our standard daily operations would look like. Um, and we're always looking at how can we advance that? How can we include new technology, whether it's AI, speech and text analytics, topic mining. Uh, the thing that we've done in the past is we've saw a need for something, a particular need. For instance, we didn't have a really good quality system. We didn't have a way of recording and capturing our quality, our evaluations. And so we had a custom application built in ServiceNow, our ticketing system. We had some very strong developers who were able to put something together for us. Took a lot of time, took a lot of effort, but they got it for us. But then we were kind of stuck with that. And that was our rubric. Again, going back to my previous comments, we wanted to change to that rubric, a simple question change or a weighting differently, it would require a request for change. It would go to a developer, blah, 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 would wait, and then eventually it'd be done. Um, and we found that we'd kind of boxed ourselves in by jumping on a solution or creating a solution ad hoc. What we tended to do was try to scale back to out of box functionality from whatever we're using. Um, with Genesis, there's been a few business needs and things that we've looked at and said, man, it would be nice. And we've kind of held off, just put it on the back shelf because it would require a lot of development. And then within a year, suddenly now we're seeing Genesis is going to offer that. Um,
Mm.
we talked about data integration and we really need a data lake that we can start pulling from and how easy it would be if we had a data lake, and we talked about it. And then a year later, Genesis announces, this data lake integration that they're going to offer to their clients. And so we're looking at that. We just hold off a minute. You know, there's probably going to be a solution that comes that is supported out of box and is probably more robust than we would have thought of. So we've learned that although we may have a vision that's way out there and we're trying to think how can we get to that next level that we want to get to, and how can we achieve that automated, integrated, whatever vision. Um, Genesis and some of our other partners, they're thinking the same things. They're pretty aligned. We're aligned, and we feel like if we allow them to build, it's going to be a better product than we would do in house. It's going to be supported. It's going to come with all the benefits and all the integration with Genesis that it would normally have. So um, it's a balancing act, really, between what the businesses need, what's available to us feature wise. Um, we've also seen areas where we've looked at a feature and wanted to tweak or add slight functionality to. And Genesis has been very responsive. A number of times we've been at the Experience conference with Genesis, and they've made developers directly available to us for a quick meeting to talk about what our use case would be and to see if that's something that would be considered. We've also made suggestions in the Genesis communities and we review things that have suggestions and ideas that are there and vote on those as we see they would be something that we would need. Yeah, there's been a lot of things that we find once Genesis has given us that, it's actually as good or better than we would have even anticipated ourselves. And so we've been very happy.
I want to
Yeah.
dive into a little bit more around how you're servicing. You said you had 2 customers,
Mhm.
that you're servicing, but there's probably several departments that you're dealing with, right? Can you describe
Yeah.
a little bit about
Yeah.
your layout there?
Oh, absolutely. So we have the largest group would be our mentors. They are each student is assigned a mentor that is a full-time faculty member that um, has a focus in the area, whether it's IT, nursing, education. Um, they meet regularly with the student to talk about the progress. So, being an online university, you don't have a lot of interaction with a teacher or with a uh, professor. You mainly are taking online courses, and there's a variety of different uh, mechanisms that we do to convey the coursework. There's probably, I think there's about 3.5, 4,000 mentors that exist to serve just the students. So we support them in the issues that they encounter. They're all remote, so there's always network issues. The hardware we apply them is robust, but their education, their nursing, they're not IT, so they don't have the technical background, and so we do a lot of hand holding through simple things and really guiding them through the parts of the technology that to us are just common sense and easy. So we have to, think about that. The students that we help, there's 185,000 students currently, and then there are 5,000 students that are part of our sister group, WGU Academy, which is an entry level, somebody who may not have any college experience. It's a precursor, and it allows them to take courses, get some experience under their belt before they jump into WGU proper. It's a very low cost way for them to do that. And then the course they take becomes a college credit as they enter WGU. So somebody who may not qualify directly for WGU will have them take an academy course, very quick, easy, inexpensive way to get that experience and prove that they will be successful at WGU. Um, the internal staff that we support our IT department. We're not part of IT, we're part of operations, but we do support them. Um, and there's various departments, our financial services, assessment services, enrollment. Those are some of the main ones that we support. And there's various levels of support that we'll offer them depending on the hardware they're provided or the systems and applications they use. In all, my team supports about 255 different systems, tools, applications.
Wow.
So
And across all that, so you're working with all these different organizations internally. How does your team think? How do you think holistically about a CX strategy at that point? What's the mindset there?
yeah, with Genesis, it's been pretty easy. We introduced SMS and web messaging to our staff, and we have the luxury of being able to pilot things with our staff. If we bork something or mess something up on a staff, if we don't configure something right or we make a mistake with the routing in our implementation, uh, staffer, it's okay to make a mistake with our staff versus our external customers, our students who are paying to attend WGU. So we've often gone that route. Move it with a staff facing pilot, and then once we've figured out what we're doing and how we really need it and want it, then moving to the student facing. Genesis has been very helpful though in as we apply those new functionalities, those new features to help guide us in what is best practice, how have other people learned, and what have they figured out as they move forward. So it's been fairly easy, really. And we like I said before, we wanted to have this omni-channel experience. Really, however they want to work with us, that's where we'll meet them. One of the biggest surprises, actually, as we started going down this route, was the the low level of attainment that my team needed to start using these things. SMS and web messaging, it looks the same to my team. They don't have to learn a new user interface. They don't have to be really even taught. In fact, the pilot group that we did with web messaging, when we rolled it out, we told them it was going to be hitting them. It would look just like a regular SMS interaction. So and we didn't do any training. They just ran with it. Um, it's been very easy for most of the teams, as well as we've integrated voice and the different channels, email routing, those things. It's surprising how easy it is for our teams to jump in. See, it's very intuitive application, and they just run with it. It just makes sense.
So, Greg, I don't know if you were keeping count on that. I think we had about 4 to 5 easy references, and I
Yeah,
think that's
yeah,
And a good buzzword bingo on omni-channel too, right? A lot of
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I continue to be amazed and surprised at just how easy the implementation is, how easy the adoption is, how the granular control and integration. So one good story, maybe I'll jump off on a side topic real quick. We purchased a Beyond subscription for my manager of training and quality, and one area that I really wanted her to focus on was evaluations and the QA application I mentioned earlier that we had in ServiceNow. And it was just starting to show its age. So I asked my manager of training and QA to look at the evaluation application within Genesis, and we had purchased the Beyond subscription for her. She jumped in on a Monday, started her first course in Beyond. About a half an hour later, she came into my office and she said, "I just built my first evaluation, my first rubric in Genesis." I said, "You built your first?" She said, "Yeah." "Pull it up. Let's look at it." I said, "This is amazing. This is so easy." She says, "I want to run with this." I said, "Go for it." Uh, 3 weeks later, we had moved our entire QA application from ServiceNow into Genesis. It took her team a day and a half of training, walking them through, because they hadn't had that access. They hadn't gone through the Beyond course. We got them up and running. We haven't looked back. We went from providing one QA per week per technician to 4 very easily, very quickly. We have developed multiple rubrics for multiple things that we wanted to focus on. And so just the speed at which the adoption could take place. It's a small team, it's about 6 people, but still, to have us move that application directly over and relieve ourselves of the time and the constraints that came with having to request changes regularly. That was a huge win for us.
and that's all from one day of courses, right?
Uh,
Or half day, or
she didn't even complete the course at first. She was 30 minutes into the course, part of the process. She stopped the course, jumped in, created the rubric, created the evaluation form, uh, walked into my office. I told her to run with it. It was the next day that she sat her team down. By the end of the week, they were using the rubric, and about 3 weeks later, we just said, "Why are we no, just we're all in." So yeah, it's exciting and fun.
well, everything you've described it now is we define as orchestration, being able to create all the
Yes.
experiences, deliver exceptional customer experiences, but also exceptional employee experience as well. And that you've described both really well. And with all that, what are some of the key KPI improvements you've seen? Do you have anything offhand? Just quick stories around that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the best examples is our asynchronous response time. So any of the uh, work items that are hitting my team from email or a web form, um, we were at about a 9.5, 10-hour response time, meaning it would take us that long to do a meaningful response. They get the email immediately saying, "Hey, we've received your issue. Somebody will be working on it and get in touch with you." It took us about 9.5, 10 hours to get on the phone or respond with an email, giving direction or doing troubleshooting. Um, we found that it was pretty ineffective. We had people that were on the phones and we had to give them time to pull emails and cherry pick emails if they wanted to, um, and work on those. And it was really ineffective. We jumped on email routing and implemented that. Within 30 days, we had dropped our meaningful business response from 9.5, 10 hours to under an hour. It hit 45 minutes and it stayed around 45, 50 minutes for our students. Staff's a little bit longer because we prioritize our students over our staff, but it's still for staff, it's just over an hour. So that reduction in time was one of our goals. Uh, we had no idea we'd be able to reduce it that much that quickly. Initial reduction in meaningful business response time for those asynchronous items, work items. Um, that was our big win for that quarter, and it continues to be one of our proudest moments. So,
Yeah, that's fantastic. So what's next when you think about where you want to take the service desk, where you want to take your customer experience? Like, where's WGU go from here?
yeah, it's a great question. We're gonna kind of sit back and let Genesis help us decide that. As great as our vision may be, we find that there's a real benefit in the collective knowledge that comes from serving so many different companies globally, like Genesis does. So whatever my vision is, I'm gonna continue to hone that and look at it, but I'm really going to rely on the uh, the advancement that Genesis puts in. But one of the big areas that we're really excited about, as most people are this day and age, in the last year especially, is the use of AI. Um, Primarily, and to begin with, in our evaluation and our QA processes, how can we use AI to do more with less in that area? And then the next big step that we're going to take is really harnessing some of the AI on an individual tech level. So the AI to help summarize the interaction and get that um, real comprehensive summary of the interaction in the hands of the technician so they don't have to write and create that in our ticketing system. Um, we use ServiceNow and the Genesis to ServiceNow integration that was announced. We are making some changes in our ServiceNow instance so that we will be able to take advantage of that. We're very excited about that. It's one of the biggest features that I've wanted in a long time. It's ServiceNow and Genesis are the two applications we use the most.
Okay, so final question. What advice would you have for folks who are on their own journey? Like, what are the one or two things that you would suggest from your own experience?
What could somebody do to help make sure that they have a successful journey with Genesis is, I'd say, become very engaged with the company, their representatives that support them, and start to listen and take their advice, because it's proven us it's proven help, not just helpful, but it's kept us from making some mistakes along the way for sure.
Well, we want to thank Darin Graves from Western Governors University for joining us today and sharing his experience and his strategies with our listeners. And thank you also for listening. And the exciting thing is, we're going to have more to come from WGU in future episodes to expand on their story and how they're advancing their CX. If you like this podcast, Please subscribe and you'll get our next episode in your feed. And be sure to visit genesis.com to learn more about how you can level up your CX. Until next time, thanks for listening.